Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to I95.5. As usual, your usual Sunday evening staple is on. We thank, as usual, John Benoit for holding it down from 2 to 6. And as I always say, put you in a mood, a frame of mind for sober thought. This evening, we have a very full studio. And Amalgamated sent everybody to this interview. We are happy to have them. We're happy to have them in the studio this evening, and it's a first for this radio station and them and us too as well. It's a company that we've heard a lot about. We see them passing almost every day, and they are welcomed part sponsor of this for a short time as it is, but Dependency in partnership with Beacon Insurance. They agreed to throw us a lifeline in the meantime while we're sorting things out, and we're really grateful for that. And thank Mr. John Bauer and the entire executive of the Amalgamated Security Services Company Limited for seeing the importance in what we do. And as they said, you know, it falls in line with their mandate, and we really appreciate that. As you know, they've been assisting the state. They work alongside prison and police officers on a daily basis, but they do a lot more than that. So these gentlemen who are in studio with us this evening will take us through the paces, and after having sat with executives of this company and these gentlemen, I've learned so much more about this company and the things that they do over the next few Sundays. We're going to hear every other Sunday. We're going to hear somebody from, you know, our tagline, every life is a biography. And we actually have two of the gentlemen who were the second and third security officers in this company. That's some history right there. And also the work that they do, they extend for their employees, the hand that they extend to their employees. I mean, when we are finished with this series, you would be amazed at the amount of things that we didn't know about this company. And I was really, really impressed, especially when I sat with the boss. He being the first security officer in Amalgamated. So imagine they started off with one security officer and blossomed into a magnet of a security company. It's really amazing to hear their story, and we are happy that we are going to share that with you. You're going to hear that for the first time on I95.5. And of course, over the period of time, we're going to have employees in who are going to speak to a number of things, a number of issues, a number of benefits that derive from working for this company. As I said, I've sat with them, and it's really amazing what this company has been doing behind the scenes, and we don't know. And I think you know, you folks out there will be well educated when we finish. So everybody's here: Cameron, Kyle, and Natasha.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you for joining us.
And Natasha will introduce our guests who will be speaking with this evening.
Yes. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Independency again. And to repeat what God just said, we are very pleased to have the members of the ASSL team in studio with us. Those on mic and off mic, welcome. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to I95, and welcome to Independency. So, to carry us through today's show and give us a better sense of what ASSL is about and how unique it is as an organization in Trinidad and Tobago and across the region, we have Curtis Cummings, who's the Chief of Operations, Ricardo Laborde, who's the Deputy Chief Operations, and Brian Ramsey, who's the Regional Development Director of Amalgamated Security Services Limited. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Yes. So I don't know who wants to start, but we could start by just giving us, Curtis.
Yes, let's start.
Give
with
us
Curtis.
a little history of ASSL, when it started, and what are the core services that you provide.
I would like to hear that conversation. If the boss, I don't know if he was doing night duty then and he got tired and he said, look, I need some help. I would like to know how that conversation went, Curtis. You being the second person to actually sign on to Amalgamated Security Company.
Amalgamated started in the early or the mid 80s, 85, around there. I joined the company in the year 86. a small company started off in Woodbrook with a few officers. And then you said it's only one officer we started, but we actually started with a few, maybe about 5 or 6, a little more than one. So we started a small company there in Woodbrook, 2 vehicles, an old Escort and a panel van. That was the 2 vehicles that we started with, and about 5 or 6 officers. At that time, the economy was as similar to what it is now. So I, as a young person, looking for a job.
How old were you then?
23.
Okay.
Looking for a job. And what was available was security. So I joined Amalgamated in 86. And the rest is history. I'm here 33 years later.
So how did the progression go? What was your first job? What did you all do back then?
Basic security work. We didn't carry firearms at the time. We just started with normal battle officers and K9, and we blossomed from there. We actually opened our second office a few years later in San Fernando, because the customer span was too much for us to handle out of Woodbrook. So we decided to moving to San Fernando a few years later, and from now we are all over the country now.
And your role working alongside the boss. I keep saying the boss.
Yeah, he is the boss. A very, very visionary leader, a strong personality, and I think that's the person behind my success today, and the reason why I stayed in Amalgamated for this length of time. That individual.
What was his focus? What did he focus? What was his dream?
He had a vision for where he think that security could go. Those days, well, crime wasn't as bad as it is now, but there was crime still, and security at that time was a few companies, not as much as it is there as now. So he had a vision for what he wanted security to be. And where he wanted his company to go, and I saw that in him. So, as a young person looking for some career, I decided to stay on for this length of time.
So, in a nutshell, what does the company really do? Apart the services you all provide?
We can spend the rest of the evening talking about the services, the length and the amount.
We have time, gentlemen.
Well, besides your basic battle and firearm and we have several departments. We have ambulance service. We have a department that handles our ambulance service. We have investigations department. We have training. We have the alarms and electronics. We could go on and on. We have divisions that are all over Trinidad and Tobago.
You left out a few.
Yeah? I've left out a few? Okay, well.
Mr. Ramsey, you can expand on a few.
Basically, in the
Come speak to me.
basically in the field of security and static guard service, we provide baton, firearm, and canine security services, all of which has to have its own special and unique training. So we have to develop that so that we could deliver the type of service that is required for those particular aspects of the job. And coming out of that, you also have executive protection, where the officers would provide personal protection for the principal. Obviously you would have known when the kidnapping was a little high in Trinidad and Tobago, and at that time there was a need for that type of service to be provided. Again, as Curtis mentioned, we look and we seek to get professional trainers, persons who are internationally certified to train the manpower, and we were able to provide that gap at that troubling time in Trinidad. Right? Not thereafter, but in addition to those services, you have different business units that we have. We provide cash in transit services for the entire Trinidad and Tobago. That service has also spread to up the islands. Brian will give us some insight on that a little later on. Right. In the cash in transit services, we provide in that department data protection. We move My mic is not close enough. Okay, right. So we move data. We provide data protection. We provide storage for your cash valuables and things like that. We move money for banks and financial agencies. We provide payroll services. We'll create and deliver your payroll. There's a whole host of services under that particular department.
In addition, in there, we also have ATM replenishment. I mean, most people nowadays, you don't see them lining up. Instead, they go to the ATM. And a lot of people don't think, well, how does that money get into the ATM? At least 50% of the ATMs in this country, we're the ones that actually go and replenish and make sure that those machines have the money in there, so that when you, on Friday or Saturday night, you want to get cash, you can get it. But we've broadened beyond that also, and now we're also doing certain what we call financial institution outsourcing, where we're the ones that are actually now counting and managing the cash on behalf of different financial institutions. So your money goes in, it's not really the bank teller as such who's counting. If you're a business, it's us who's counting the money and confirming that this is your amount and that you deposited and informing the bank, and then they then credit your account. Included in that cash in transit service, we handle what we call valuables import and valuables export. A lot of people, again, don't think about it. Your custom, you have your Links card. Where does that card come from? You have your credit card. Where's that physical card come from? It's not made in Trinidad. It's made outside of Trinidad. And if you were a dishonest individual and you could get your hand on a box of bank cards or credit cards, you could do a whole lot of crime. So those things have to be brought into Trinidad, and they have to be safely delivered to the bank and distributed. And that's also one of the services. And we have international partners who handle and who would actually pick it up at the factory that it's made, get it to the airport in the particular country, get it into Trinidad, and we pick it up, we keep it safe, we then deliver it to the bank. So almost anything that involves the movement of valuable items falls under that cash in transit service. Curtis mentioned about our investigations unit. So yes, that unit will handle investigations of you had money missing out of your office and you're not sure which employee did it, or you suspect that an employee did it. You can come to us and we will undertake that investigation. But included among the service that unit provides is how about the person that you are going to hire? How honest is that individual? Who does he or she associate with? Who's in their family that might lead them astray and things like that? Our investigation unit handles background investigations, so that when you hire someone, whether it is you're hiring an accounts clerk, whether it is you're hiring a finance manager, whether you're hiring a gardener, you want to be certain that that's somebody you can have around. Our unit handles that. We also have, because very often something's missing in an office. Not me, I wasn't there. And the next one says, I didn't see it. And the third one says, I don't know anything about that. And so you have three people. Who's telling you the truth? All right, and you come and you question and you ask, but who's really telling you the truth? So now we have persons who are trained as polygraph examiners. The common term nowadays is called a lie detector test. But the proper term is polygraph. And so we offer polygraph services. We have now a associated company that is called Caribbean Forensic Services that is now handling forensic matters. So forgeries, fingerprint test, fingerprint examination, and that can take the whole forensic. I won't call it like CSI, but can go that route, and it's actually not very far from here, just down the street in Woodbrook.
Question, Brian. Now, all of what you have just said, in addition to what your colleagues have mentioned, it sounds like your Amalgamated is functioning as a police service, because you perform a lot of the functions that police would. And I suppose, in essence, you are a supplement to that for people who can afford to pay for that service. But is there any conflict that may arise out of the work that you do and the work that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service does?
No conflict, and you've hit the nail on the head. Let's face it, you said
who can afford to pay for the service. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to get my salary. Curtis wants to get his salary. Ricardo wants to get his salary. Somebody has to pay for the services that ultimately then pay us. So yes, these are services. Our services have to be paid for. But no, there isn't any conflict as such. People have a choice. You want an ambulance, you can pick up the phone and dial 811 and GMRTT will respond to you.
Hold on, Brian. So you all provide ambulance service to the public, not just your employees?
No, the ambulance service is for the public.
811?
No. 811 is the number that you would call that will connect you to GMRTT. Those blue and white ambulances that you see up and down, that's paid for by the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
But if you want a private ambulance, let's say either your child fell ill and you want a private ambulance to come and pick you up, or more so, you are ill, but you don't have to be in the hospital, but you have to go for you have to go for an MRI, you have to go for an X-ray, but you're not really mobile. You can contact ambulance, our ambulance service is called Archangel Ambulance Services, and our emergency medical technicians will come, pick you up, take you to the hospital, take you back home, or you've been in hospital and you've been released from hospital, but you have, let's say you have to go home, but you can't sit up in a car and something like that. Our ambulance will transport you. In addition, we have companies now who are contracting us to provide standby ambulance services in the event that their employee gets injured on the job. So we have what we call retainer contracts, where those employees, where those companies rather, will retain us, and we have to respond. If something happens, employees on a conveyor, working on a conveyor line, and a crate of something fell on the leg and they got badly injured and they need to be taken quickly to the hospital, they can contact us. They have other companies, like if you think about it, those people are involved in land exploration for oil. They are in very out of the way areas most times when you're exploring for oil. So a lot of those companies now have a requirement that they must have some sort of ambulance service on standby in event that is a blowout on the rig, that elevator fell or something like that nature. So ambulance service covers all that range of requirements.
What number you call to access that service?
800 LIVE, 800 LIVE.
800 LIVE. And that's, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with officials of Amalgamated Security Services Limited, and I mean, you might have noticed the expression on my face when Brian starts to run down, the
list of services,
the list of things that are amalgamated. I'm learning a lot about this. I'm still learning, and I know Curtis tried to be a little modest, by
the listing to be
but something missing here though, because starting off with 5 security officers to reach to where Brian just explained here. Could you say leave out some things here, man?
Something
how all of this happened? I am.
That's a good question, actually. Which I would wanted to ask is how did you all go about developing the human resource to match the needs that for the services that you're providing? Because I mean, we have not been a very security conscious country, so it must have taken a Herculean effort to train people up and to find people who can provide these services.
Before Curtis answer that, I'll just tell you, I didn't finish the list of services.
Oh God!
I know. If you want to drink some water and then
let
continue.
Let Curtis answer how we find the people.
All right.
As we grew as a company, we developed the skills in taking the officer, the personnel who came into our system and provided that kind of training for them to bring them up to a particular standard. We went all the way trying to improve in terms of what would you have thought was a watchman in those days. And we have now changed the landscape in terms of what people view a security officer to be. That came from the experience that we gained over the 30 years and how we went about looking to do things different. That's the difference with Amalgamated. We want to do things different. So we took the young people and we made them into something. Most of our management today are homegrown persons who came through the system. So it's not only the only success story.
Right.
There's a lot of other success stories.
Like for instance?
Well, she's not on the mic,
Right.
but our designated CEO today came in as a secretary. Today she is the designated CEO. Our chief security officer came in as a duty officer. So a lot of the persons who are in key positions today in Amalgamated came through the system.
At the same time, we also, except we also will hire talent as well. So we develop people from within the organization, or we give them the opportunity to develop. Let me put it that way. We give people the opportunity to develop. It's up to them to take those opportunities, and I think a little later on
Yes,
in
of course,
the
we
program
will
we're
do
going to talk about that.
Yes.
But we also do, from time to time in certain areas, we hire people who have certain specialized skills that we require. We hire and then give them further opportunity to develop. Like there is a young lady that I interact with and fairly often, came into the organization as an accounts clerk. Today she's a manager and she's the one that's running the financial outsourcing unit. She took the opportunity, she studied, but she also had the mindset and the drive and the willingness not only to work hard, but to learn. A lot of people think it's just long hours. It's not just only long hours. You have to understand what it is you're doing. Your brain has to be attuned, and so she grasped the opportunity, exerted herself, and has now moved up and is now the manager of that unit.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Take a step break.
Thank you for staying with us on Iron Dependency. We have a packed studio, as we mentioned earlier. We are speaking with officers, key personnel from the Amalgamated Security Services Limited, who have recently come on board Iron Dependency as a part sponsor, so we thank them again for that. After hearing of the range of services that this company provides, it's a lot. And there's still some that we understand have not been mentioned. We want to talk a little bit now about how you go about recruiting persons to work with Amalgamated. And you just mentioned off air that there are 3,000 employees in Trinidad and Tobago and 1,000 up the islands. But what are some of the things, or some of the qualities that you look for in an employee?
Mr. Lamont,
Yeah.
how you go about doing this?
Okay, well, first, let me start by saying that we have a very robust recruiting process, meaning that, remember, we have offices all over Trinidad and Tobago. So our recruiting departments and our efforts has to take into consideration, we need people to work in Point Fortin, we need people to work in Diego Martin, in Tobago, in Guayagari, Mayaro, San Fernando, all over, right? We have 17 offices all over Trinidad and Tobago. And we use social media at some point, and our website at ASSL.com. We also use ads on Facebook, CaribbeanJobs.com, for anybody who's wishing to have a career in the security industry. Print media, the Daily News, Guardian, Newsday, and the Express, and also walk-in. We take walk-ins.
Don't mention radio.
Yes.
I comment to that. It's on the line. Yeah, so we take walk-ins at our offices as well. So anybody who is desirous of getting a career as a security officer in Amalgamated can walk into any one of our offices. So if you live in Point Fortin, there's an office there. You can walk into that office, and you don't have access to social media and that kind of thing. You could walk into that office and be a candidate for recruitment. We use, obviously, the radio. And again, direct recruiting into the communities. Sometimes you'll be in your community and you hear a mic going off, advertising recruitment for Amalgamated and so on. Once all that has been concluded and persons come in, there's a selection process, a screening process, sorry. And in that screening process, we have to ensure that you pass firstly a height and weight measurement. Once you
Before we get past that, what's the height and you're looking for?
The requirements that is
Yes.
needed to get into the services.
nothing under 150 pounds and nothing over 250 pounds.
Right.
And
Like
it-
5'11", good, 5.
we
5,
went
6,
to
5, 7.
5'6", 5'7".
Right.
Yeah, and that's because you also recruit women as well, right?
Yes. Right, and in that selection process, as a matter of fact, we give you a simple examination, entrance examination. It's really simple English, arithmetic, and a little bit of social studies. Once you are successful there, you have to be drug free. So you have to subject yourself to a drug test. Basic cocaine and marijuana and derivatives. Once you are successful there, then you have an interview. And in that interview, you are asked certain questions, and once you pass that, you are then now sent to the investigation department where a background check is going to be done. Once you clear the background check, you are enrolled into the training school, and you're there for training.
How long does the training last?
2 to 3 weeks.
No,
No, that is 2 to 3 weeks for a person going in to the basic guarding.
Basic
As you
security.
move into other services, there's additional training that you have to undergo.
Correct.
So you'll do the base. If you're coming in, and then that's also, because you see, the better the company, we look always and say, guarding, and let's face it, that is where the bulk of the employees are. But because of the different specialized units, not everybody is coming in under the guarding stream. So some coming under different streams. And obviously, if you are coming in to work in one of the units that is doing, let's say, the financial institution outsourcing, or if you're coming in, because we recruit people to our own human resource department, our accounting unit, and so on, well, you'd have a slightly different entry requirement for those things. And of course, then we haven't talked about the units that deal with the computers and the services that we provide to other companies that are linked to the, let's say, the information age type services.
Right.
Obviously, again, there's a different stream there.
now, okay, now I noticed, now when I got in touch with, I decided, let me try Amalgamated. So I called a colleague of mine, former colleague of mine, in the, that's Brian Dixon. Brian Dixon then told me, look, talk to Mr. Reyes. So, and just when I show up, Mr. Reyes wasn't expecting me. And Mr. Reyes said, I told him why I was there, and he said, no problem, he's going to arrange it. And next thing you know, he kept in touch with me, and he called me and he said, look, he arranged a meeting with Mr. Bowen, the executive, and he was in that meeting as well. So I want to thank Mr. Reyes for that too. But what I noticed is that you all have a lot of former military and paramilitary personnel, like police and defense force personnel working with you all. And I mean, every time I go there, I see a new one. You know, just
Because basically he knows everybody who's in the defense force, right? So,
but and that's a part of your mandate, actually, to have former military and.
No, it's not really a part of our mandate, but what happens, Gat, is that if you are into the police, it's like naturally, if you didn't expand into other areas, you would try to gravitate to what you know,
Right.
and go to the security companies and military alike.
We are always looking for persons with additional skills. So if you're going to accept persons coming into the company
But who
additional
already
skills,
have
Military
Those
career,
skills.
paramilitary career.
Correct.
But
Right.
one thing I want to just get clear, when persons wanting to get into the amalgamated security services, do they have to have like passes or
Well, it depends.
level passes?
See, again, that's why I say it depends on
That's just the
what,
basic.
if you're coming in the basic as a security officer, no, you don't. What we're looking for, to be quite honest, are people who can read, write, count, and know what's going on around them. Ricardo mentioned about the entrance exam, and that's the purpose of the entrance exam. Can you imagine if you had a security officer, and unfortunately, there's some companies that have that, where The customer says this weekend X, Y, and Z going to happen. So they write a memo and they post the memo. They have a security officer who can't read. So weekend when let's say the workmen show up, that security officer don't know what's going on because he can't read. So we make sure, and that's the purpose of our entrance exam, to make sure that we hire people who can function in today's world. And unfortunately, people who are illiterate cannot function in today's world. They depend on somebody telling them to do this, do that, and there's a saying that if I tell you something, you're only going to receive 75% of what I told you.
Right.
And if you tell the next person, that person's only going to receive 75%. By the time it gets to the fourth person, only 25% of what I actually said is conveyed to that person.
That is tested and proved.
Right. So you can't depend on oral. So our entrance examination is designed that it's simple, but it's intended to ensure that yes, we have somebody who could read and understand. We have somebody who, if you left an instruction and said, John is supposed to take 10 crates out, well, that officer better be able to count when John is leaving, otherwise John will go 25 crates.
Right.
So that's the purpose of those exams. And Ricardo said the person's subjected, and I want to clear up something. Subjective gives you the feeling that this drug test is something terrible and thing. It's very simple for the person who's undergoing the test. It's urine. You give some urine and it is tested. And if you are a user of cocaine or marijuana, it's going to be in your bloodstream, it's going to come out in your urine, and it will show up in the test. And so the test is not hard. It's not something that people need to be scared of, but it's something that we use as part of our entry requirement. And that one, irrespective of whether you're coming in to be a computer programmer, because we have people on staff who are computer programmers for the software that we develop for others. If you're coming in to be an ambulance attendant, you're going to work in the accounts department or wherever, you have to do the drug test.
What is the attrition rate based on the results of those drug tests? Have you found that people frequently turn up positive for those drug tests?
In Trinidad or outside?
Anyway.
Let's start with Trinidad.
Take both. But let's start with Trinidad first.
You want to take the Trinidad and
Well, it is a problem. It is a problem in Trinidad in terms of people using. So we do have a problem in terms of a lot of persons failing because of the use of drugs.
Now, when you find that person, or first of all, what would draw your attention to someone to give them a drug test?
It's compulsory for the entry.
All right, but
So-
after entry, and the person settles in, do you have
We do
random?
random drug testing. Yes,
Right.
we do. And once you are found to be a user while employed, we have what you call a drug watch program. So we manage the personnel there through that program.
Now, this is important, Mr. Comrade. This is very important for all employers to hear, because I was really impressed with this explanation that you all gave when we had the meeting. What do you do with your employees when you discover they're using drugs?
Right. We enroll you into the drug works program. It's not about if you found you using drugs while you're employed that you exit.
Right.
So we enroll you into our drug works program, and you're subjected to having be tested once per month to make sure that you are on the reducing. So you have to be reducing. If you
It's
are
not immediate,
It's not.
immediate dismissal or anything like
no,
that. Right.
no.
That is excellent. That is commendable.
And
I
Labod is the expert in
Yes,
this.
Mr. Labod.
So he can expand on it.
But how?
Yeah, Mr. Labode.
I would want to say that it all depends on circumstances as well. If you are found in our random tests, that when you are tested in the random test, that there's a level of drugs in your system, we go to the lab, where the lab gives us a reading, so much ml, and based on that, you are given an opportunity. If you would like to stay in our employee, you have to correct it and come off of that particular drug. And again, there is a sequence of tests that take place, and it must show that it's reducing to zero. And when it's at zero, we continue.
You have to
on a
remain in the
monthly-
program for
on
a
a
time.
monthly test to ensure. That is to ensure that we also reform that particular individual and he continues to work. If he does not, or he or she, I should say, does not, and the level remains the same at the subsequent test, that person is terminated.
And that was the basis of my question.
I love that. I really love that. And congratulations to Amalgamated for approaching it in this humane manner. I'm really impressed by that. But let's say a youngster wants to join, and during you also give them a urinalysis, right?
Yes.
What if it comes up positive? What happens then? You tell them, well, sorry.
Correct. On entry, you must be clean and drug-free.
Right.
This is this program is only offered to employees who are in our employ. So if you are here and you're working for a number of years, we invested some time in you. You're a trained security officer, and you make a mistake, you drink some marijuana wine, and all the other excuses that we get around Christmas, and
It's a feast.
you'll laugh at that.
Sounds a little odd.
The way it's making that sound like something that's habitual.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that's
not
a normal
habitual. It's not
excuse.
but it is an excuse that we would have definitely passed.
It's not only habitual. There are people in this country who use marijuana wine and who soak marijuana in rum and say that they have it there for the cold and things of that nature, and who believe that it does in fact, who believe that it helps them, or who do it because they want something stronger than regular rum. And so they buy, what used to be $5 worth. I have no idea what the equivalent of $5 worth will cost you nowadays. I don't know. But
$25.
probably. And who buy and put it there to soak.
Right.
And maybe he went and the grandfather had it and he take a little sip and it come up. Can't always say that people lying. That might have happened.
Right.
Or who find that the auntie makes some cookies and they ate some. And it was in the cookies. And those things do happen. I mean, people give that as an excuse, but there are people who use marijuana and bake it into cookies and things of that nature. And so somebody may have accidentally, or at least they're telling us it's accidental.
But with regards to recent conversations that have been started with regards to the marijuana and the legalization or the decriminalization of it, how then do you all deal with persons?
Well,
It's a very important thing. We had a discussion about that a few days ago, and it make me go and double check. And most of the discussion in the Caribbean, Ricardo was correct, and he corrected me. It's not about legalization in the Caribbean, it's about decriminalization. And people have to understand that is an important difference.
Now, let me ask you this question, Mr. Ramsey, because you deal regionally, right, with officers. So, in certain parts of the Caribbean, it's already decriminalized to an extent, right? You could take us now to outside of Trinidad and Tobago. Do you have the same issues going up the Caribbean? Let's start. First of all, how many Caribbean islands you've been?
okay. Could I answer him
Sure,
first?
sure. Go ahead.
So, in Trinidad and Tobago, and wherever Amalgamated is working, just remember, once you are under the influence of a drug, you cannot do your duties well. I would hate to think that I jump in a plane, and while I'm in the plane, the pilot just went and take 2 pills, while it's legal where he is, and I mean, I have to fly in that plane with a pilot that is under the influence and he's impaired, or a doctor who now ready to cut me and he going outside to settle his nerves. Right? So at the same time, we want to ensure that every employee of ours is not going to a duty and he's impaired, whether it's by a legal drug or alcohol or over-the-counter drug. So just to make that very, very clear.
But outside of Trinidad, marijuana use is prevalent in every one of the islands.
So the islands you're in, Amalgamated is?
Yeah. So we're in Guyana, Grenada, Barbados, St. Lucia, and Antigua.
Right.
And so we have the same policies in all of those islands.
Right.
The same drug testing, the same drug watch. If we find that you are in fact after random testing, we find that you are a user. We have exported our services and our knowledge to each of these different countries. And so we operate in the same manner. And yes, we do have challenges at times when we're recruiting people in finding that they are users. In some of the islands, sometimes you don't even have to test. You could watch a man and say, "Boy, you look like last night you went and smoked." I'll give you a joke. Several years ago, in Barbados, and I was doing interviewing along with the managers there, and two fellows came in for interview, and from before I was looking at them and they were together and joking and things. So I realized they're friends. And while we were doing the interview, they were one at a time. I looked at the one that I was interviewing, and I said, "So why you went and smoked last night?" And the fellow said, "Me?" I said, "Yeah, man, you smoked some good weed last night." And the guy said, No, boss, not me. It's the fella outside my partner. I was only drinking. So when the other guy came in for the interview, I said, "Well, your partner said last night all you were smoking weed in the party?" And the fella said, Nah, he was only drinking. I was the one that was smoking." And they were open about it.
Right.
And at the time he said, "Well, listen, I'm sorry, I can hire your partner, but I can't hire you. Come back in 6 months' time if you're really interested, and we'll test you, and if you're clean."
No, this is where the argument will start. This is where because
Yes.
you see right away you said, "Well, we can hire you, but we can hire your partner because you're a drinker, but your partner is a smoker." And next week we're going to have some advocates in here discussing this whole issue.
Right.
And I'm sure they're listening right now, and they're right. You see. So people could drink till they're stupid, but
On the walk.
Right.
yes, but a man can't take a smoke. And
Here's the catch. Unfortunately, is the society and the laws that we have created.
Correct.
So marijuana is illegal, alcohol is not, and the thing. Now, as Ricardo quite correctly said, if you come to work drunk, we're not letting you work, Right. And if you are consistently drunk,
That's it.
that's it. We'll put you on something on similar. We don't. It actually, you'll end up on the same drug watch program, all right, where you have to show reducing usage. So it's anything that will impair your ability to do the job. Now, you raised that thing and you said about legalization. And many people now have this thing in their mind that they're going to legalize marijuana. The country that has reached the furthest in the Caribbean region for this is Jamaica.
Decriminalizing in some
Correct.
amount.
And exactly, you hit the nail on the head. They have decriminalized. And so that if you get caught with under 2 ounces of marijuana, you can still be charged. But it will not be a criminal offense that will go on your record. And you wouldn't be, and you simply pay a fine. You wouldn't have to go to jail.
Exactly what
Belize is following the Jamaican model. Antigua was supposed to have implemented in December, but I'm not sure why it has stalled.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is also in discussion with the
Oh gosh,
community.
St. Vincent pushing very hard, and St. Vincent has made their intention very clear. They want to develop a marijuana, well, I shouldn't say develop a marijuana industry. From police reports, St. Vincent has a marijuana industry.
Yes,
They
they do.
now want to develop a legal marijuana industry.
Yes.
Now, what Jamaica did, and I think St. Vincent is going in that direction as well, Jamaica said, however, that medical marijuana will be legal. Now, a lot of people look and say medical marijuana and think it's the same marijuana that they're smoking to get high. Medical marijuana is marijuana that is, how shall I call it, boy? I don't want to say modified, but the strain of marijuana doesn't contain the same amount of THC as the marijuana
this is the difference
will
between
get you high.
THC and CBD.
yeah.
Right, exactly. And so Jamaica, and I think they're using either the University of the West Indies or Jamaica, UTT in Jamaica, or UTEC as they call it, to work at developing marijuana for medicinal purposes. And so they say medicinal marijuana is legal. And St. Vincent has indicated that that's the direction that they want to go in, to develop a medical marijuana industry. And from what we have read and things that I have seen, medical marijuana apparently does have benefits to people with certain types of illnesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's start with Guyana. We have, of course, around the region we have different cultures, different behaviors, different. just have a Guyana. What is like recruiting there, and and this Guyana, they got some oil just the other day, so I guess they will have a need for more security officers soon, right?
Right.
What's it like recruiting in Guyana?
Recruiting in Guyana is a bit of a challenge. The Guyanese economy, it's no secret, underwent rough times for many years, and that resulted in a lot of Guyanese who had skills and knowledge leaving Guyana, whether to come to Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica, or to the US and Canada and the UK and the like. What we find in Guyana is, and it's not that different in Trinidad, is we get a lot of females who are applying for security officers as opposed to males. People think of the oil, and yes, there's an oil industry, and then the spin-off industries. You know, the thing with an oil industry is not just the drilling of the oil, it's supplying all the support services, and that so you get a lot of the males gravitate into that. But even before those, males gravitated to going into the interior for gold and diamonds and emeralds and rubies, because everybody talks about gold from Guyana. Guyana has all those other precious gems, and so males in Guyana, that's what that's a manly type of things, and or driving maxi or working construction. So in Guyana, the challenge a lot is recruitment of males. But the other challenge is entrance exam. That is a clear challenge in having people who pass. I can tell you the earlier versions of the entrance exam, we found that the pass just weren't getting. And it's not, when we say we export our knowledge, we don't just take a Trinidad exam and send it. We try to do just like CXC does, and make the exam either country neutral, so you don't have to be a Trinidadian to understand the questions. It'll fit any Caribbean country, or we localize the exam. So if I'm talking, I will not ask you how long it will take to come from Piaco to Port of Spain. With the exam will instead have how long will it take to come from Timeri to Georgetown. Right. So we localize for each country. We localize a lot of the exam, and we try hard to also make sure that it's country neutral. So that anybody from any Caribbean country
culturally appropriate.
Right. You know, now that isn't as easy as it sounds. We are accustomed, for example, to saying about maxi. You go to Barbados and tell them, if the maxi will cost you $5 every day to come to work, and you get in $400, how much money will you have at the end of the week? And we actually had that mistake. Wow. And the failure was high on that question. And I went, well, why? And then somebody pointed out, because a Bajan doesn't know what a maxi is.
Correct.
Okay.
So then we found out, because they refer to it as a ZR.
Correct.
So we had to so we have cultural bias in the exam. We have to therefore look for that and change it.
Right.
But that's the situation in Guyana.
So would you say the literacy level is a little
yes,
low?
It's lower.
In Guyana.
Grenada, we're now beginning to have a bit of a challenge with literacy levels, a little bit of a challenge there, but that's because the Grenadian economy is improving, and so on. But I say a little challenge. It's something that's insurmountable. St. Lucia, we get a balance of employees there, male, female, ability to read, no problem. I always like to commend the solutions because of our experiences with them, particularly after the hurricanes hit their island. And we had employees who, no maxi working, no bus, no taxi on the road, and who walk from home. And when they reach the river that flood, because the bridge washed away, they took off their shoes, roll up their pants, and walk through the flooded river, and then continue walking to reach the work. And every contract that we had, people reported for duty, and when there was change of shift, other people reported and for the change of shift and things of that nature. So we have a lot of dedicated and hardworking employees in other Caribbean islands.
That's commendable for the Caribbean region, the other Caribbean islands as well.
Yeah.
But would you all find that that same thing happening here? And you'll
Well, we haven't had any hurricanes hit here, so we don't know. We haven't been able to test it.
but with regards to the weather and stuff like that, a lot of people say, well, boss, it raining, so I can't leave my van flooded in the road. I can't.
No, but I can tell you that we have a core of people that we could close our eyes and say that no matter what happens, if you call on them, they would be there. And I suppose that is so in any organization, you would have the dedicated.
No, but in 1990, we had a lot of dedicated officers that no matter what, they came out.
But the times have changed, and so now that you have a younger crop of persons who are actually applying for.
You will still have the core that will rally the call. You will always have the core that will rally the call.
So you said, but in St. Lucia, despite being ravaged by the hurricane, these officers came out to work.
Now, I don't want to make it sound as if people in the other islands are saints and Trinidad are devils. I don't want to give that impression.
Lazy.
I mean, we have, how shall we call it? From time to time, we'll have issues with employees in other islands, and as with any organization, you address the issue with the employee, and depending, it may be just that you need to talk to the person to straighten out their ways. Sometimes you might have to take slightly harsher methods to emphasize that what they did is wrong. So I don't, and we have to do those in every country. But we find a level of dedication in the islands that is really, as you said in your words, just commendable. It really is people who are really committed to the organization. I think also it in part is because they recognize that Amalgamated is a company that looks out for its employees and gives its employees the opportunity. The same things that we've done in Trinidad, where we seek to give people the chance to grow and develop. We're doing the same things in those other countries. We're giving people the same chances, and the nice thing nowadays is that so much of learning is online, that you can now let people sign up for online programs where they can advance their knowledge. So be able to do it in other countries if the individuals are willing and dedicated.
If you're just joining us, you are listening to Dependency, and we are having our first sit down with officials from Amalgamated Security Services Limited, and we barely scratch the surface here with some of the things that we want to get out there. So we're going to take a quick break and return with Mr. Cummings, Mr. Ramsey, and Mr. Laborde right here at 95.5 FM. Stay right there.
Thank you for staying with us. It is 18 minutes after 7 o'clock, and you're tuned to I95.5 FM. This is I on Dependency, and we have in studio with us this evening some representatives of the Amalgamated Security Services Limited, a new part sponsor of I on Dependency, and we've been having a pretty wide-ranging conversation about the company and about the services they offer and some of the issues that they have to deal with in the course of their operations. So, Brian, you wanted to touch on a couple of the other services that you didn't mention that you think are worthy of mention. No,
right.
So feel free.
Within our company, we have something called the GIS, Geographic Information Systems Unit. And that unit does a lot of work in development of interactive maps, so that you want to map a particular area and have a map that's not just a map that you look at and say, oh, okay, that's the street and there's a lamppost and so on. But you want to have a map that says this is a one-way street, and you could only turn right here, and you could only turn left here. Or you want to query the map and say what is the distance between here and this other point, for example. And our GIS unit we've developed that sort of map for Trinidad, and then they will develop other specialized mapping for customers. Allied to that is our vehicle tracking service, where a lot of people advertise that now in Trinidad, where they talk about vehicle tracking and know where your vehicle is at all times. Almost every single one of them is buying some software from somebody in the States and then bringing it down and sending it here in Trinidad. The difference with us is the software that we use was developed by Trinidadians here in Trinidad, and so
it's for locals here as well.
Well, so it's for locals, but we have customers in Grenada, we have customers in St. Lucia as well. But the software was developed by Trinidadians and maintained by Trinidadians. So it's become a service that we are capable of exporting. But it also, the reason why I wanted to talk about it as well, because earlier we were talking about avenues for persons to work in Amalgamated, and we focused a lot on security officers. And we do need a lot of security officers. We use a lot of security officers. But that's not the only entry stream into the company. And our JS unit, for example, is one of those where we're taking people who are coming out of UE and UTT and COSTAT and those institutions of higher education. And they have an opportunity and a future within the organization. Plus, as Ricardo mentioned, for example, we have 17 offices across Trinidad, plus the offices in the different islands. In this day and age, you can't operate. I mean, we're in a studio, and I'm looking, and it's a bunch of flat screens all around. And we're streaming to people on the web. So the world has gone to the information age. So nobody can really operate a business nowadays without information technology at the heart of their organization. And we're no different. So within our unit as well, we have people to keep our networks operational. 17 offices, how do you keep in touch with those 17? We're even going beyond that now into how do we keep track of what each officer is doing, and we're using our technology to keep track of where each officer is and what they're doing at each particular point in time and so on. And therefore we hire people now with a background in information technology. One of the other things is, an associate company of ours is the Caribbean Institute for Security and Public Safety, which is based in Chaguanas and which provides training to companies, where companies can say, listen, I want my staff to get training in robbery prevention. I want my staff to get training in customer service. I want my staff to get training in contract negotiation. And they will develop a program for you. But they also advertise periodically. Each month, actually, they have different programs also open to the public, where people can sign up. I think, for example, next week, Saturday is one for homeowners about residential security. It's a 4-hour program that people can come and attend, and 4 hours, and learn about how do you protect yourself, your home. What is good about the door that you have, or not good about the door you have that is allowing the bandit to kick it down and come in. But they also have how do you contract a security company, or the whole range of programs. And now expanding beyond that to offer as well, in collaboration with a company called Preview online testing. So you signed up for a course in air conditioning and online program in air conditioning and refrigeration, but you have to take the exam and through Preview, the Caribbean Institute is now able to provide the exam facility, so that the organization that you signed up with will know that you are the one that actually took the examination. And the Institute has a relationship with Miami-Dade College in the U.S. Several times a year, or offer programs that we have security officials, police officers, defense force officials from throughout the region coming to Trinidad for a 3-day or 4-day or 5-day program. I mean, the last one I think was involved using social media in investigations. So the people are coming to learn how to use that, because a murder took place, a robbery took place. Social media is such an important part of various people's lives. The police are now using that social media to form linkages to determine who should we be investigating and so on. So that program helped police officers to learn how to use media in their investigation. And that's just one of the programs that the Institute runs or has run.
Right. So that is just two or three more aspects to Amalgamated's business. But I want to touch on now some of the programs or systems that you have in place for the personal and professional development of your employees. I mean, you have, apart from the employee assistance program, which we'll get to, what are some of the things that you do as a company to enhance the lives of your employees?
Well,
Ricardo.
well, we have several areas where we do development for staff. We want to start at the level of the security officer. We place in every division console or cubicle, and we have a number of programs, whether online and in a database, where any officer could come to his division, go on that cubicle, sign up for a course, and do that course online. That's to help him sharpen his sword, so to speak, and he's more prepared to do the job at hand. We, for supervisors and so on, we are affiliated with several international companies, as is International, IFPO Foundation, and we use those organizations. Their base is their basic mandate is to develop security professionals around the world. So, for instance, the IFPO have a basic security supervisor program that we enroll ours to make sure that is part of our training. In order for you to be given the position as a supervisor, you must be enrolled in that program and you must be successful in passing the examinations. So you have an international certification in security supervision and management from the IFPO, among other programs that we have included in our total package. For management and so on, we have the CPP, PSP, and PCI examinations coming out of the ASIS International. Again, those are...
Just for the benefit of the listeners, the CPP is Certified Protection Professional.
Yep.
And the other one was...
physical security.
Right, so a certified in physical security, and the...
Yeah, what is investigations?
Investigations.
PCI is investigations.
Yes.
So these are certification programs, so that the individual is you know that he has that knowledge in the field, and it wasn't just that he's been around the industry for 30 years, so he learned something.
It's a world-recognized certification for security professionals.
And again, the
Put them outside.
yes, put them out. Some of the programs we deliver ourselves. We develop the instructors. We send them away and get certified. So we have from National Safety Council, for instance, we have the first aid, CPR. We have instructors here who are certified to deliver those programs. From National Safety Council, also the defensive driving program. We have about 10
ISPS.
instructors trained. The ISPS program as well, which is International Ship and Port Security. Instructors trained and certified internationally to deliver those programs. So our officers, when the need arises, firearms instructors, together with trained and certified by NTOA, NRA. Our executive protection instructors are all trained away. K9 instructors, master trainers was trained in Ohio, and well, the list goes on and on. So we find that once we found that we need to move forward in these particular areas, we try to develop our instructors as well, so that the instructors are internationally certified, and we deliver the programs ourselves to our officers, and they get international certificates.
What benefits do these programs have on the children of these officers as well? What services do you offer? Well, what sort of programs are offered? Well, from the perspective of the to the employee and as parent to the children.
Okay, so let me see if I understand what you're asking. As an employee of Amalgamated, once you, again, as Brian said, once you grasp the opportunity to develop yourself, you are promoted, and you earn more money, and you're able to help your family more. As well as we have a lot of family events. We try to encourage family events. So we have an active sports club where there are events that, for instance, last season we went to turtle watching. I had seven maxis going to Grand River to look at turtles, and you bring your family, your children, and they go and they do that sort of thing. We have international Anthony Joseph Foundation, where we recognize our employees and their children who would have sit the SEA program, SEA examination, and who would have passed the SEA. We give them a grant.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned Anthony Joseph was one of our employees. How long were you employed?
One of the 5.
Who
was with you?
You're right, yeah. And
he died.
Unfortunately, he died on duty. He got killed responding to an incident in Sealots. Unfortunately, got in the middle of a crossfire.
Right.
And
how long ago that is?
3 years.
3 years. And because of the level of dedication, I mean, Joseph was, you could have called Joseph any day, any time, and Joseph was there. And Joseph was willing to work. And, sometimes you have to say, Joseph, no, you can't work them kind of hours. You have to go home, and so on. But because of the level of dedication, the chairman decided that, no, we have to create a foundation in his name. So and the Anthony Joseph Foundation was created. And as the board says, through the foundation, employees gain certain benefits and training. You mentioned also, and one or two of the things that are now happening that are relatively new. We have to become in this country a bilingual nation. We're surrounded, well, not surrounded, but we are next to a huge continent that speaks Spanish, and yet so many of us do not. But we talk about diversification, and we talk about wanting to expand. Well, how am I going to sell to Colombia if I can't talk to the Colombian and tell him how good my product is? So we need Spanish speakers. Now, yes, there are those who claim that we have a lot of Venezuelans, so we could hire the Venezuelan to talk to the Colombian. I mean, yeah, okay, we could do that. But the company now has a program that employees can enroll in to learn to speak Spanish at our Tumpuna facility. We also have, and we said, yes, we have we have entrance exams, and we test your ability for reading and comprehension and simple mathematics. And you're good enough to get in, but you're kind of weak. We now have
literacy
programs, adult literacy programs within the organization, and remedial English programs now within the organization to help employees improve in those areas. That's why earlier when I said, for somebody to grow, it's there for them. It takes persons to grasp the opportunity. Now, it isn't always easy. You're working, and as you quite rightly pointed out, a lot of employees have children. Whether one child, 2 children, or sometimes they don't have children. Sometimes they're looking after their own parents who are aged. So they have personal responsibilities, and then they have work responsibilities. So it's not easy for anybody who didn't have those educational opportunities earlier in life, and now later in life are trying to take advantage. So it is a struggle. It is difficult. But in order to grow and develop, you have to go through that. I mean, there's some people who like to use the religious terms and say you're tested by the fire, and that's how you know when you have real gold. There are those who say that, and maybe it's true. All right, but that's unfortunately what has to happen if you either didn't take advantage in your youth or didn't have the opportunity in your youth, and it's only now been available to you. Now, depending on the level of examination. So Ricardo mentioned about the CPP and the PCI and the others. For those levels of examination, the company doesn't just hand you the books and say, go and read. The company has classes. Curtis takes part in, because Curtis is CPP and Ricardo, they all have their certifications and so on. And then they now work with the people who are now taking the exam. So the classes. And you sign up for the CPP, and you better come to the classes, and then before the exam, the company actually gives you time off to go and study to prepare, because we want the individuals, we want the persons. The Amalgamated actually has won twice, I think it is.
Awards. We
International
receive international awards from the international body for our dedication to pushing our employees forward. And the level, and as a matter of fact, the amount of, at one time, we had the most amount of qualified persons in the
entire world.
In one company.
In one company.
In our full region, yeah.
Correct. You know, some companies have,
in our region.
In the US and thing, will have 3 CPPs, 4 CPPs. When Amalgamated had 20 CPPs. As is looked at it and said, what, with this one company? And actually give an award for it.
Twice.
So let's go back to the children. So you would have employees right now who would have children transitioning from primary to secondary.
Yes.
Now we have a program coming up on the 2nd of September, and we want to have people bring their children who are doing that transition. I mean, the seating is limited at the Diego Martin Central Community Center. Now what we plan to do is prepare them for that transition the next day, from the time they go to secondary school, because it's a challenge for some of them. So Amalgamated to get some of their employees to bring their children to that.
That's not a problem.
That's not a problem.
Yeah, because we would like to have you all benefit from that too. You know, we, of course, the President of the Republic will be there to deliver the feature address, but among other speakers. But that's an initiative that we want to bring on board. Could do it every year, but we would love Amalgamated to have their employees with their children who doing that transition to be part of that process. So we can
discuss.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
also, I understand that you also assist your employees with their children in another way. So those persons who would have to pay maintenance for their children.
And there's a laughter in your room.
And I mean, and this is a serious issue because men get locked up because they haven't paid maintenance, right? So it's something that constrains a lot of people in terms of making the payments on time and fulfilling their responsibilities to the court. Is there a way that Amalgamated assists its employees in that regard?
I could tell you. Once you go into prison, sometimes if you are not strong, your whole, when you come out, you're reformed.
Yeah.
But in the other direction.
Yeah.
So we want to ensure that our employees do not face that prison at no time. So you come in and you tell us when you come in the selection process. You say, look, one of the questions is, do you have any issues, maintenance, that?
Right.
Once you are able to identify for us that you pay maintenance through the court, we offer that we will take that burden off of you and we will pay the money to the court for you, just to ensure that
he's being modest there by saying we offer. It's mandated that it goes through your salary and we deduct the money and it pays it directly to the court.
Right, so you don't have to worry about that.
No issue there. That coming out of your salary for first thing
on the tape
and going, and that going.
No, that's an important service that you offer employees, because I mean, not every employer is going to take that interest in your well-being or your children's well-being, right? So you also should be commended for that.
You mentioned children, and there are two things I want to also talk about with relation to Amalgamated and children. Every year, Amalgamated has it's Christmas, and you have a Christmas party. We don't have an adult Christmas party. There's no function for me to dress up and put on a jacket and tie and go. There's a function though for children, for employees' children to come, gifts and toys and ice cream and so on. But the company has extended it beyond just its own employees' children. And Curtis can tell a bit more. You have children.
We also include in that Christmas party, we normally select 2 homes for children and actually invite the home to bring the children to those parties. So every year we select 2 homes and so you have about 40, 50 children who couldn't do better. I mean, they're underprivileged, so we give them the opportunity to at least spend
on the last
time.
Couple of years, 7 different homes from different areas throughout Trinidad and Tobago Grandy, Port of Spain, Laventil. 7 different homes were invited. Not all would show up, but I think we had 2 only not showing up last year, which is 2 Seventh-day Adventists. They were affiliated to the Adventists. The function was on a Saturday, and we had to take the gifts to the home.
Okay.
But it's tremendous. Santa Claus, everything.
Well, one of the other things that is done, and this one actually, it's a company activity, but it's not a company-funded activity. It's actually started with 2 employees in one little office, and they expanded it by going to the other employees and saying, hey, look at this, we need to do something. Look at this, we need to do something. And basically what it is that every year, those employees put up money, they put contributor to the salary, and to a home in Diego Martin. And from the very first year, I went to the home and said, what do you need? I mean, not talking Christmas, toys. Not toys, and the home said, no, because everybody gives you toys and ice cream and sweet drink, and in fact, we don't want to get the children sweet drink because they get hyper and all this type of thing like that. So we said, what you need? And they say, no, we need mops, we need buckets, we need chairs, we need plates and containers and so on. So every year now, and that group has stayed together, even though almost all, in fact, I think I'm the only one left in that particular office, physical office, that was part of the original group. All the others now, over time, because of the job, have now moved and are physically located area. And yet every one of them gets back together. And it's done by email now, because not physically in the office. It's that time of year for your contribution, and everybody puts. And then there's one particular employee who undertakes to go out and do the buying, and then carries it for the home and says, okay, this is what we've brought for you this year. There are some other departments there's another department, I think, that does something similar for a home in the...
Not one home, that is for, we go to the regional corporation, and the regional corporation would identify different homes, well, not homes meaning organized houses of people in need within their corporation. And once we get a pool together with be it groceries, painting, whatever it is, we would send a team out and go out and deliver the groceries all around, that kind of thing. But people identify.
Nice.
Folks, this is a very interesting conversation we're having here with these gentlemen from Amalgamated. I'm sure that, despite what there are a lot of things that you've not, you would not be privy to about this company and the amount of things that they do. And again, we want to commend them for extending their hands even to the employees and see how much they do for them and the room for growth in the company. So we still have lots to touch on. You see, and the time. Yes, but the sexual harassment, that policy we need to talk about. So we're going to take a quick break and return with Amalgamated right here.
Thank you for staying with us. We are in the last minutes of I95.5, and there's still, every time we take a break, we realize we have not mentioned something. But do bear in mind that we do have a few more programs with Amalgamated, so we have time to go over all the things that we missed this evening. I want to start back up the conversation about women. Now, for persons like me who are not part of the security industry, I assume that it is male dominated for obvious reasons. But that is not the case at Amalgamated. Could you tell us how come? Why?
Why? We're an enlightened company.
Right.
I mean, many years ago, I remember having this. I got angry, actually, I have to admit that. I got angry with a particular customer who was asking for males. And I said, why? What it is in this job that requires a man? Tell me. You want somebody to check who come in at the gate, and if they're not allowed, don't open the gate. You want somebody to record who came in and what time they left, and if there's an emergency and a fire, to make sure that everybody has exited the building and those sorts of things. I said, so tell me, what about that requires a man? And then I said to them, in the back of your mind, what you really want a man for is that if you have a fight, you want somebody to come and beat up somebody. Well, we don't do that. You ain't paying us to fight. You're not paying us to do that. You're paying us to do these jobs, and male or female could do it. And the company therefore had adopted that mindset, and now we have, well, in some places we actually have more women than men. In some islands we actually we have a bounty out for males. We want more males because there are just too many females, and some of the roles have a job roles require a certain amount of physical strength and so on, so that requires a male.
But you do take them to unarmed combat training and
yes,
right?
yeah, we do. Yes, that's part of the thing, and this is one of our experts in that field here, Ricardo. But it doesn't, not just at the security officer level. We have females at all levels in throughout the organization in positions of responsibility, and it has never ever been an issue for the organization. Why that is so, I don't know. I've only been there 17 years. They've been here 30 something. Yeah, only 17. So I mean, look, Curtis could take you back the 33 years and tell you what it was in the DNA of the formation that caused it. I'm not sure, Curtis.
Yeah, well, the females have always been attracted to security. Anyhow you take it, we try to maintain a percentage. Anyhow you take it. So we have a 60-40 percentage. So we have a 40% females employed as officers. So we try to maintain that ratio. No matter what Brian just said, the customers still have an issue with the balance, the balance. So we try to maintain that balance.
But I'm sure they're not dissatisfied with the service they get from the women.
No. They're very competent. Female officers are very competent. And some duties are more suited for a female than a male. Anyhow, we take it, the more receptionist type duties.
Okay.
So who's better to handle that?
Yeah, I was going to say, plus sometimes we also have to look at our own innate biases at times and recognize also, and which happens in the organization. So, we have a bias here that shouldn't be. Traditionally, we talked about picking up money, and we assume that's totally male dominated, and by and large, generally it is. And we recognize that's a bit of a bias. Why? They have, when you look at how many police cars on the road that have been driven by women, how many vehicles driven by women. So why it is we can't have female officers as the driver in the armored truck? The armored truck have another person inside there whose principal role is to keep track and record what came in and went out. Why that has to be male? That's an innate bias, that society has. And as an organization, there's sometimes very strong discussion on topics such of that nature, and some people sometimes lose in the discussion. And now we have women in those capacities.
Yes.
But sometimes having women in the capacity also makes us realize certain things that we're doing that are not right. So for example, in our vaulting area, you're thinking it's all men and so on. So the bags of money coming in could be as big and heavy as whatever is men. They could lift it up, and then you start to put women to do the job because this is more of a recording function and so on. And then the women complain, and then you go down yourself and say, well, I gotta lift it up, and then you that bag heavy, boy. And so now suddenly we had to put it in our contract with our customer. It can't weigh more than 50 pounds.
Okay.
And we're entitled to refuse to pick it up. And I thought, how you could, you have customers say, how you could do that? And I say, I noticed something. You have women working, bringing the money first, but they can't lift it up. They're dragging it. Would you expect us to lift it up? Many men are going to end up with bad backs because of lifting overweight items. So it forces us to recognize our own bias and then adjust so that we end up with a good workplace for everybody.
Now let's deal quickly with, we have women working in an institution. You would have from time to time on either side this sexual harassment in the workplace. How does your company deal with that?
We have policies that make it clear that we do not tolerate sexual harassment in any form. And I'm glad that God put it both sides, because you're going to have males harassing females, you can have females harassing male. So it's a policy. that says we're not going to tolerate it at any level. But policies are no good if they're not backed up by action. So that policy makes it quite clear who you can go to if you believe you are being harassed, and who you can complain, and what actions will be taken. The company has also, I think it was the whistleblower was a year ago or 2 years ago, about a year ago, recognized that not everybody want to come and say because they're afraid of victimization. So the company then developed what they call a whistleblower policy, and said how you could go about now complaining anonymously and reporting anonymously. And as I said earlier, we're exporting our approach, philosophy, thinking to everywhere that we work throughout the Caribbean. So in Barbados has implemented a specific law about sexual harassment. So as an organization, our Barbados management, and our Barbados management actually consists of a Jamaican, a Trinidadian, and a Barbadian, the three most senior people that was there, then sat and wrote a policy and then sent it, and in Trinidad we looked at it and said, okay, we need to modify this, we modified that because we have to be in compliance with the law, and we add in a step more, and we taking from our Trinidad experience. You all didn't think about whistleblower, we're going to teach you about that, and we put that in and so on. So it's not just for Trinidad, it's throughout wherever we operate. We don't tolerate sexual harassment at all. And how can you, when more than 50% of our management staff are all female?
But there's also the train of thought that men are also sexually harassed as well, and sometimes it's also more believed for females. Sometimes some companies more believe a female can be sexually harassed, but a male, it's actually shunned, and sometimes male are afraid to come forward. But how do you deal with a male?
Well, I don't think we'll get a male person coming and saying I'm being sexually harassed.
No.
But then because it's seen as machismo, and it's
not only that. I'll tell you something, and people sometimes treat with things differently because of your gender. Think of yourself, and a lady comes to you where you're working and tell you, boy, you're looking good, or whatever the case may be.
Which does happen. It does happen.
Yeah, he's a victim.
No, he is.
So, all right, point in case. Has he reported anything to I95? Obviously not. But had it been the other way around?
Obviously not. You ask him, you should ask him the question.
I am not the person in the
No, but it's important too that at least there is a policy. The policy has been circulated throughout the establishment. Everybody knows what the rules are and knows the process, as you said, and what are the consequences.
Ricardo mentioned something a bit earlier, and he talked about the terminal in each division. Division meaning each of the 17 offices and so on. So each employee could log on, and not only log on for training purposes. Each employee can log on to all our company policies, procedures, orders are on an intranet. Online. So you could log in from within the office and say, I'm not sure if the company have such a policy. Well, you could go and log on, and then you read it and you see for yourself. Now, I also mentioned earlier about at times to create a policy takes a lot of intense discussion because people have different points of view, and you saw it just now, Erica. It's a little bit different. And you asked about male being harassed, and he assumed that it was a female that doing the harassing. But this is a world where genders are changing and becoming, I don't know what you call it, diffuse. So males can be harassed by other males, and that does happen. I'm not saying it happens in Amalgamated, I'm talking in general terms. And so our policy is designed to treat with that. And females can, and I've had the experience of it, of females being harassed by other females, and our policy is designed to treat that. So we don't put that female officers, if you are harassed, we don't say that. We say employees, if they are harassed, this is what you can do, this is what you do. And the policy stresses about confidentiality, and who is entitled to have the information and who is not entitled to have that information, and so on.
So there's a zero tolerance approach to
that.
The whistleblower as well, the whistleblower policy as well addresses the issue of bystanders who would maybe witness this activity, and they also need to know what to do.
And as a company, sometimes an employee doesn't make a complaint, but you hear the talk.
Yes.
Somebody come and say, boss, you know, so-and-so, we think so-and-so happened. We treat that equally. When I say we treat it from the point of view that, okay, we get some information, it may not be true. Sometimes people make allegations against other people for other purposes. But at that point, we'll say, well, there may be some truth. Let's go and try to at least find out if there's something here that is to be investigated. Sometimes it is, you may end up be saying, well, you know, talk starting to go wrong about you on certain activities. Nobody investigates yet, but if you're in that, you know, maybe you should stop, because if it gets the investigation, you might lose your job. And occasionally that might be all that's required to stop it in the bud.
So you're recruiting every day. You have somebody wants to join up. Could you share? I mean, we had the promo running, but the numbers that they can call again, Mr. Comment, you could folks are, you know, I'm sorry we saw you all calling, but you see the time ran out on us and we barely scratched the surface here with these gentlemen. So, but as you say, every other Sunday they will be here. Another employee also will be here to continue to shed light in some dark areas on this company. And also, next week we have a very, very, very interesting discussion for you. We'll have Darius Figueroa and Dr. Pottinger, and we having that discussion continue. We're trying to hook up with the Prime Minister of Antigua Barbuda, and you know, all of these things we have for you next week Sunday, please God. So again, we thank you all loyal listener for staying with us and taking all this information. And again, the numbers to call if you're interested in signing up for Amalgamated.
Yeah, well, if you want to make a career in security, again, Amalgamated is the choice. The one and only choice to make. You can get us at 476-1116, 322-2776, or 626-2776. Visit our website at assl.com. You can also find us there
on Facebook.
On Facebook.
Or social media platforms as well, just besides Facebook.
Besides Facebook,
LinkedIn,
okay.
CaribbeanJobs.com, or you can walk into any one of our offices, and you will be dealt with, given an opportunity to join our remarkable
team.
Mr. Cummings, Mr. Ramsey, Mr. Laborde, it has been an interesting, informative evening with you all. We thank you all very, very, very much, of course, to the executive and those folks listening from Amalgamated, Mr. Rez and Mr. Bauer and all these
downstairs.
Yes. We thank you all very much for this opportunity, and we will see you all again soon.
Thank you very much for having us.
You've been listening to Dependency, folks. Thank you very much for staying with us and taking all the information, and again, have a great week.
Good night.
Good night.